Hello, this is Naji Coach, and today we're going to be doing a lesson on the Naji Ji natural law teacher. Okay, Naji students, this is going to be a very interesting lesson because it's teaching you about how you are a teacher. This is important because because of the way of the Naji, the Ji we have is both very complex and can be confusing, and also causes an increase in our HSP. We have it from Nai, but also from the Ji. And so there tends to be a lot of Zai to try and control that. So most Naji, even Naji that self-identify as actually having Naji energy fields, for example, there's still a lack of understanding of exactly what Ji is, how that works for them, because Ji works different from every person. But Naji, as we mentioned before, starting with Nai infuses everything else down the pipeline, automatically makes it unprecedented, makes it independent-minded, makes it perspective-shifting oriented. I'll do what I normally like to do when I'm talking about something, when I'm talking to people like, comfortably, and I have some cool Naji students who I have a good rapport with. So what I like to do, guys, is I like to start by sort of setting the scene with any major perhaps principles or aspects or elements that may be relevant, going into learning about it. And then once that's done, I kind of like to just jump around a bit within the constellation that was made. So first constellate and then jump around the constellation. An important thing to note is that for the natural law teacher, there is a combination of the student-teacher relationship within it, so that Naji are both a natural law teacher to themselves and to those immediately around them that they're aware of, and to those who are observing them that they're not aware are observing them. There's more to it than that, but just starting those three things. The natural law teacher is for the Naji to teach themselves, to teach others they have contact with, and to teach others that see them whether they know it or not. This is important because the teaching can be done where you are playing the mentor, but also where you're playing the mentee. There's a lot to jump around to, so let's go ahead and just get started. First is obviously being a teacher-teacher. That is very rewarding for a Naji, as is being the student. There's a whole filming on the student-teacher dichotomy, so I'm not going to go overly into that, but it's very relevant. Actually, a lot of things we've talked about before are relevant because all the Pod Power Spirit forms, what makes them so awesome is that they just know how to do stuff, both consciously and unconsciously, and that also includes pulling whatever resources they need from the Phenomena and engaging in whatever resources or activities they need to out in the environment. So starting with the fact that you got insights that others didn't have from your one-way walker, there's now going to be a need to do stuff with it. There's the obvious, you want to teach others. You want to be able to share that knowledge. That's important. So you say teach, sometimes Naji may feel that sounds too formal, and they don't feel formal, especially if they identify with being adaptive, for example. But there is the fact that you very much want to impart good knowledge, wisdom to others. So that desire to find it and that desire to share it, that makes you directive as a Naji. But where you go to get it and how you go to get it can seem rather yin, although it's not. And the heartfelt desire to get the information across to the other people in whatever form would best suit, that can feel adaptive. It's not. It's a combination of the deferential and dominant flex factor of Ji with the one-way walker, Nai Alpha, Nai Z others too, basically making them shapeshifters. So they can use the Ji to get the goals that the Nai has done. We'll jump around now, like I said, to various ways of teaching yourself, teaching others directly, and others learning from you without you perhaps meaning to do that. And there'll of course be overlap. So, as you said, there's the formal teaching, but a Naji may not identify with that, but this is something you should be aware of. Your way of speech, the natural way of speaking for a Naji, teaches others. That's just how it works. Even Naji, as we talk back and forth, that's just the way we speak. And you may not be aware of this, for example. A lot of Naiji aren't. A lot of Naiji are not aware, which is funny because we tend to be rather aware of the ongoings of ourselves and others, but still there's so much to being a Naiji that you'll miss a lot unless you really, really know what you're doing and dedicate yourself to being a Kensei of you. In speaking, the Nai is always with the natural law teacher. So the natural law teacher is basically doing Ji. They're speaking, they are engaging with people, they are making attachments, things like this. Okay, while you're doing that, Nai is always there, and we've mentioned in other filmings, Nai gives what I'll call a broken rhythm, which if you know anything in, for example, competitive sports, having broken rhythm is a big advantage, particularly when you actually have to go against each other. For example, it's not so much involved in like running straight or something of that nature, but anything where you actually need to factor in the rhythm of the other person in order to follow it, that's required. Broken rhythm is a real advantage. So this is important to note. I hope you guys already know this, so I'm going to go ahead with that knowledge. That broken rhythm is there. It's just innate to the Naiji way. When we do anything, broken rhythm is there. And broken rhythm, you can almost think of as like anti-Z and Vi, which it is. They're the superpolars and super offside. So what's going on there is that is generally the understood rhythm. If you think of like directive as being like, you know, 1, 2, 3, choo, 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 you know, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock, things of this nature, like with times, you know, daytime of the day, that's like a rhythm that everyone is sort of aware of. But there are other rhythms, and Nai and Ji tend to be very much a part of those rhythms. And these are directive rhythms. All 4 directive powers have directive rhythm to it. But since Nai and Ji are higher up in the SS index, they look like they have broken rhythm. It looks like it doesn't follow a sequential beat. It doesn't follow a given map. So no given map, no standardized sequencing, which whether you know or not as a Naiji, you're doing constant. The way you order food, as little as that. There are little pauses that you do because your Nai needs to go look at something. When you do that, whether you know it or not, the other humans have evolved to register this person is detaching more from being asked a standard question than other people are. Okay, right there, you're seeing several parts of the natural law teacher in play. The first is teaching yourself. They're actually asking you a question in a standardized form. But as a Naiji, you won't understand it that way. You'll have to understand it in your conceptual, humanistic way. So you may Nai drift, or you may give them a Ji of like, explain more please? That's actually has Nai in it too as well. So when you're doing that, you're like, what is that you're asking me? Or those are the options? So those kinds of things, just the way you, we talk about active listening that both Ji and Z do. Their face does things like says, yes, I understand you, no, I don't understand you, please give me more information, where is this going, stuff like that. Okay, so when Ji does it, it's doing it with the emotiveness, which is taking it outside of a standard line of questioning. It's making it a humanistic line of questioning. And then you're taking unnatural pauses. They're natural, but they're not natural law that most people are used to. It's not the standardized. When that, or even in a world, for example, in the future where there's lots of temples and people are very aware of how Naiji work, and so that's much better, still Naiji will be seeing things, rhythms of natural law, and they'll be moving to them, they'll be looking for them, they'll be asking questions about them, they'll be setting boundaries based on them that others have a hard time seeing. So that will always be there, even in a post-Podlair world, is the fact that you're moving to rhythms that are there, but other people aren't seeing. First, it teaches you something. As the world says, what are you doing? I'm doing something? You are. As an Naiji, you're always doing something because your one-way walker took you somewhere in your head or outwardly, and now you're engaging based on that premise. That's important. Your one-way walker sets your premise. So you actually have a one-way walker premise in everything that you do. So when I talk to the camera like this right now, the way I do it, how I engage, when I drift, it's all based on things that are outside of the technical aspects. So I'm engaging in a technical activity here, but I'm always going to be using my momentum powers to do it. And the world, even in its limited mojo reading states, can still note these things unconsciously. And that's how they know that person's odd, or that's different, or there's something about that person. They have a way about them. You do. You have a way about you. So the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you ask questions, it's different. It's working on parts of the program others aren't savvy about, others aren't privy to. So at first it teaches you because that's just your way, and you didn't realize that apparently that's not standard. You think like Ziva, that's like standard. Standard things, that empirical, universal standards. That's classically what you associate them with. But you're now teaching yourself as you engage things that apparently this is different, that others don't do it like this. Then they're being taught. Someone's not with the program. There are people who fall outside the program. Right there. There are people or situations that fall outside the program. There's an IG also, HSP. The HSP is going to cause you to, kind of like why we do so great in comedy, is put us in some very unusual situations because our Nai takes us places and then says to our Ji, you need to go learn about that. So the fact that you're trying to learn about that and that that's the way you learn it, this may sound a bit vague, so I'll try to give some specifics. Simple things like Kensei. Going Kensei is very natural for Naiji, and lots of Naiji are going Kensei and don't even know they're doing it. But they are. They do it better if they actually realize what was happening. They could be a better Kensei. But Naiji just gravitate towards that way. It's energizing for us. It feels masterful. We feel like we understand things better. So that natural proclivity, others are going to notice that. For example, they may be impressed by how fanatic Naiji are fanatics, and for this way, both the Naiji and Vaiji share this trait, having the worldview over the code of conduct. Your worldview is infusing your code of conduct in the way you do things, the way you walk into a room, the way you put your bag down. Simple things. This is a big one. Naiji, you walk into a room, that's just, you're always doing that. You've been doing it since you were a little kid. You're doing it all the time. You're doing it right now watching this. Every now and then, probably while you watch this video, you probably every now and then look around your room, maybe heard something, and come back to the camera. Other humans, they don't know exactly what's going on because they can't mojo read, but they are being energetically impacted by that, and they're registering that your radar is looking for something that they're not seeing. So basically, the Naiji way, it teaches others about abductive reasoning, because Naiji's way of doing everything is abductive reasoning. You walk into a room and you kind of just look and you take it in. And humans have evolved to know, although we got gunked up with civilization, but we're getting better now with pod layer, but humans are designed so they actually register this person is canvassing. They're canvassing and not in a Vi way. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something very intently. Okay, so the mysterious ways of the Naiji, the very formal code of conduct we often have, but it tends to be rather individualistic. It tends to be rather eccentric. These things all cause other people to have to stop doing what they're normally doing and take this into account. Now this would seem frivolous, and Z and Vi naturally wouldn't do this, for example. Other humans wouldn't do it. Zhai wouldn't be bothered with it because it wants to do what it wants to do. It wants to be wild. But Ji of the Naiji has the vision. It's a visionary code of conduct. It's an eccentric code of conduct. It's a natural law code of conduct. And because of the truthfulness of it and the implacable visionary drive of it, it demands people take it seriously. So Naiji, you have to watch out that we use it for good things. Pretty much when we bring our energy into something, we actually start to speak about it, we start to study on it, we start to just walk around and engage in it. Unless you're ghost walking, which is something else you can do, it's going to have this charged quality. The Nai charges up the Ji so that there's this, again, whether Nai Ji know it or not, they're designed to appeal to the Zhai of their other. And so first they have to get its interest, one-way walker, that this is epic, this is super important, this is big, 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 big stuff. But then the way you do it has this just so. And people aren't sure at first why it's just so, but it demands that they figure it out. Nai Ji go their way, we talked about that, but then they demand others pay attention, that others give them space, that others become fluent in it. Like, one thing you see a lot with a natural law teacher is, combined with perspective shifting, is Nai Ji will get good at multiple languages, if not like languages as far as cultural languages, like Japanese, English, and so forth, languages such as programming, languages such as other models, language such as other philosophies, in order to be savvy, and they will show a degree of code of conduct on that puts everyone on notice. You've got to have heroic code of conduct around me, and you need to canvas. I've canvassed you. And did you see how I'm standing? Yeah, what's that? I stand like this because this, and this. Why do you stand the way you stand? See, both Nai Ji and Vai Ji share this, which is there's a reason why I do everything. I mean, there's passion, there's flex factor, we get worked up too, but it's being driven by something. And so we basically ask people with our natural law teacher, how do you drive? Why? Where does that come from? How strongly do you believe that? Why? There's another thing too, Socratic method. There's a lot of things jump around here. Nai Ji naturally teach in the Socratic method. This is a little different than Vai Ji, although they use it in a way. But Nai Ji are really good at constellating givens that people do know. One-way walker is finding out stuff people don't know at all. But when we start teaching people, we're like, what do you know? Do you know this, this, and this? Yes? Okay. Let's put that up on the wall. Do you know this, this, and this? Oh, yes. So, and you basically get them to agree on stuff that's natural law, that their brain has gotten. And once you get enough constellations, you go, do, 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 do. You connect their dots for them. Nai Ji, this gets at skinwalking. Nai Ji are very good at going inside someone else, figuring out where their head is, coming back out, and then explain to them. Because it can be difficult to explain to someone who doesn't know what's, for example, pod layer. In pod layer theory, as I mentioned before, Mojo is not the thing that I started with or I'm most interested in. It is, however, going to be the easiest door for other people to walk through first. So, as a natural law teacher, I'm like, what is it that will get the attention of the student and get them to go, aha, I get it. And this gets into shape-shifting. Whatever form I need to take. And this gets into something else about some people not recognize themselves as a natural law teacher. Nai Ji, particularly if they have strong Nai, are more concerned about teaching the natural law lesson than they are about being seen as a teacher. So when that happens, there can be ghost walking, there can be shape shifting, there can be all kinds of powers and techniques to get the other people to see what's going on. And if that means removing yourself from the equation, Nai Ji are okay doing that. What's more important is that the lesson get taught. Now, this also means that Nai Ji will be very in people's face too, which is funny because most Nai Ji, if you get to the core of them, do not like conflict. We have violent energies in us, that's true, but we also dislike conflict, and they're related. The HSP and the ferocity, they go together, and that's important for natural law teacher. Because a big part is, am I the teacher, am I the student? Should I be baleful? It's very important, both the Jez hunters, they very much use baleful and butter in order to teach, to steer, to guide. All Ji mojos and all Ji users do it to a degree, but for the Jez hunter, the main reason why you're doing this is the worldview. So teaching, this gets into monologuing. Monologuing is another way that Nai Ji teach. and you'll see again with the Jez Hunter like Vaiji, a desire to say something, whether it be, say, fiction or nonfiction, journalism or movies. There's all kinds of things that that the Jez Hunters are involved in, and the one thing they share is, after you experience it, you should feel different. I want to move you. That desire to move people, that's something else that sometimes Naiji may not feel like they're a teacher. They want, because there's a strong desire to move, it can feel more like I'm an artist. And I want to put the art out there and move people tremendously, but I don't necessarily have a specific place I want them to go. So they feel passionate, but I don't feel like I'm directing people. But you are. It's because it's Nai over the Ji. You're contributing to the overall global dialogue, to the dialogue of artists, to the dialogue of art, to the dialogue of unprecedented discovery, of invention, of all kinds of things that Naiji do. And when they do it, they're like, no, I was just inventing this. No, that's changing the world. A lot of Naiji don't see it that way, but that actually is the case. You may be feeling, no, I'm over here shepherding, little larvae from starfish to be able to help people regenerate limbs. And there doesn't feel like there's any, I'm trying to teach you. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to dominate. I'm not trying to do anything directive oriented, but that is extremely directive oriented. You're making a decision that I want to make a mark. Making a mark is very integral to the natural law teacher, because in trying to make your mark, you're basically following natural law. And as you make the mark, if it's successful or unsuccessful, you teach yourself, oh, no, I didn't know what natural law was showing me, try again. I did know, I'm on the right track, more intensity, more fanaticism, keep going, more. Then you actually have other people who are seeing this and they're actually going, oh, you can do that now. A lot of things Naiji do, they're unprecedented. So when you do them, it teaches other people that's possible. Also, the way you do it, people didn't think that was either possible or that would yield those results. So Naiji's lives tend to teach other humans frequently about what existence actually is and what humans can and cannot do. Naiji has to watch out for going off cliffs, but it is part of our way to teach other people how you break boundaries. What is everything? That's everything, really? Then how come I can walk over here? Abductive reasoning. Why this? Why that? Again, the great questioning quality of Naiji may feel like I'm not directive. I am a student. But that is a form of teaching. If you ask very insistent questions in a certain line of thought, even as you are the student, you are steering the class. You are asking that the next knowledges that come out be of this variety or be on this topic. So Naiji, this gets again to being able to steer things covertly. They're very good at steering things through questions, not through commands, although they can do the commands as well. And this gets into, again, the shape-shifting. Whatever is required, that's what we'll do. And this could confuse Naiji in that they may stay in one form for a very long time and identify with that, or they may be up and down, they don't know why. Other people are also confused because the swiftness that a Naiji can turn from student to teacher, butter to baleful is so fast, and if you don't know why it's happening, it will confuse you. But this confusion, we keep coming back to it, it's actually important. Similar to the Daryu, the first phase is confusion, but you need that to get into the Daryu, and you need to go there to get out of the Daryu and above to the other and beyond. So it's a necessary process. So the way Naiji do things tends to confuse people. You've opened the portal to the Daryu. You can say Daryu, but it's not really. It's technically the portal to the unconscious. So Naiji ways confuse people, but there's something there. Naiji ways they unnerve people. Fear. Naiji ways, they anger people. They provoke people. So they confuse, they unnerve, and they provoke. That takes you right into the Daryu, but the reason is it's a nitrous ride right to resolution and then going to higher spirit forming. Other humans naturally, not saying you can't have individual humans who have exceptional abilities and so forth and so on, of course, but if you're talking about natural gifts, Naiji are actually forced by the one-way walker to see things, and thus they conduct themselves accordingly. Other humans don't have that, so they try to avoid having to see hard truths and having to conduct themselves accordingly. Being around a Naiji makes that very hard. If you don't say a word, just the way you blink when certain people are talking, when they say certain things, the way you look down, the way you turn your glass, all this is actually saying something outside the standard storyline. That's teaching people that there's something else going on. There's something else possible. That tends to be confusing. Huh? Why is he doing that? Unnerving. What's going on? Provoking. Hey, stop doing that. This comes out all kinds of ways. I'll jump around on just a few. Being an ambassador is one. Naiji tend to be able to stay in multiple worlds because there really is one world. And the code of conduct shows this. The natural law teacher of a Naiji often means that their way seems a bit eccentric and that they stand alone. But this gives special properties for being an ambassador, for being a mediator, is that you have a unique set of credentials. You are aware of the various goings on of people and cultures or whatever we're talking about, and you are able to see dynamics very well. You also ponder things heavily, and in this case, a lot of times, don't particularly care. And not in a flippant way. You're not invested to bubble A or bubble B's way of being. You're invested in natural law and people being heroes who engage in productive harmony. That one way allows you to teach people roads that from their bubble don't look like they're there, but you can walk them. So you walk a way in one bubble that is heroic, and the people in that bubble go, ah, that's heroic. But then you do something special. You're able to walk over to another bubble and continue to be heroic in your unique way, your unprecedented way. And it teaches others it's possible. It's possible to be a hero in bubble A and bubble B and not lose anything. Because and this is where Naiji tend to differ from Vaiji, although there are some Vaiji who are exceptional and they tend to have good knee development, which is having a way, a code of conduct that is universal, that you can actually go to any city in the world and do. You can actually talk to people that you speak their language, you can talk to people that you don't speak their language, and it always works. Naiji tend to be, very focused on that. And one of the reasons is you're other. The Nijai, Ni was Jai, the Jai wants a code of conduct from Ji that goes, ooh, that's cool, that's how a hero rolls. But then, like Neximan, having Ni as a source power, like how do you actually interact with men, women, directives, adaptives, men and women? What about older? What about younger? What about animals? What about trees? What about aliens? What about AI? Everything. And you need to know how you would roll. And use that code of conduct when you order your mint tea, when you open a door. You interact with everyone in this way that is a code of conduct that your other is cool with. Again, this is important. This is why it can seem so different, because it's a code of conduct that your other approves of. It's going to be natural law code of conduct, and this is going to teach. But it'll tend to do two things which are radically different. One is, it will seem foreign to a given bubble. And they're like, what is this? We don't know what to do with it. I don't think we like it. It's definitely revolutionary or something. Another aspect is that because it's not like any meme thing, it's natural law that is being enacted or attempted to be enacted, it can go from multiple bubbles. So it has both qualities. It has the fact that it can go into multiple bubbles because that way of conducting yourself actually is universal. However, people in each of the bubbles may not recognize that fact, and thus in every bubble you will stand apart. And that seeming juxtaposition is actually integral to the natural law teacher of the Naiji. The ability to stand alone in every bubble, but with a way that you can actually take with you to every bubble. More stuff Breaking records, we've mentioned Naiji are fond of breaking records for multiple reasons. In doing so, they are being a natural law teacher because, just like going Kensei, if you attempt to break a record, you're going to actually have to do stuff that you didn't know if you could do or not, and basically put yourself out there. And once you've done it, you teach yourself, I can do that, I'm special. So that's something that Naiji like to do, is they like to actually try things, and when they experiment interacting, they learn if that's something for them or not for them. So they learn by that. Trying to break records is a really good way because, like Ken's saying, it allows you to push really, really, really hard. Now, it's better to go Kensei and let the record breaking happen naturally because that makes it more pure. But record breaking is important, and it's worth noting because that's when it tends to teach the rest of the tribe a lot. When Naiji break records, people then ask, how did you do it? Naiji are routinely put in the position, which is good, of explaining to other humans how they did what they did, and that gives them the opportunity, the platform, to bring Nai in. And the tribe needs that, but it may not know it needs this. So Naiji, when they do things, they do it in such a way that is remarkable. And then people go like, what is it you do that's so different from everyone else? And you can talk about it's my point of view, or it's the way I conduct myself, or it's my principles, or whatever you feel is most relevant to the people, but you are in the position now to teach. And again, this may not feel like a teaching. This may feel like you just went out in the middle of nowhere and broke a fucking record, and then people actually ask you for an interview. And you're like, I'm giving an interview. You're teaching. If you broke a record and people are asking you stuff, you're automatically teaching them because people pay more attention to that. That's something that Naiji are aware of. They are aware, what do people pay attention to? And it's important to get involved in that. Even Naiji, for example, are heavy into sciences and so forth that seem not very humanities oriented. It is because they generally want to do things that are going to change the way humans think to be more in line with natural law. So that's the reason why you do the experiment, why you do the demonstration, why you do the ritual, is to teach yourself about natural law. But you're doing it, this is where Ji comes in, it's public. Ji is outward, so you are speaking, you are enacting, you are engaging, you are fighting. That's another one too, being a champion. A lot of time, and this one they share with Vaiji as well, when it comes to a way of thought, a philosophy for humans to be, people tend to look to those who are the most intense, who are the most driven in their code of conduct, who have the most willpower, and that when bubbles face each other, generally, if you look at the data that shows it, you tend to have a lot of Jez hunters coming out to represent their bubble. And they are very good at it. Both Jez hunters are extremely good at rallying their people, getting their people on point, getting their people cohesive and strong together, and then, if need be, engaging the other bubble champion one-on-one and dueling them. Both Jez hunters, that's a big part of their storyline. They don't necessarily like conflict, they want to shepherd people a certain way, but in order to do that, you must tell people with all your passion the way they need to go so they'll go there. When things get hard, you need to encourage them to keep going, even though it seems like they can't. Yes, you can, and you have to give them that encouragement. So then you give them that encouragement, and then when you actually have confrontation, there's going to be willful contesting of the right way, according to the Jez hunter, and now there's going to be a contest. Basically a natural law contest. The reason why the Naiji has more like a natural law teacher is because it's often something that's seen like it's unknown. So when Vaiji come in, it's more like this way that is known is being shown to be correct. Naiji are usually bringing in ways that are not known yet. So it's like you're just making stuff up. You're like, no, I'm not making this up. And you're like, prove it. And then you do. You use your Ji. You use your Ji to speak, to act, to do things, to impress other people. To impress yourself, first of all, that yes, I conduct myself as a better human when I go this way. That must be the way to go because I want to be an exceptional human. I want to be a hero. That is paramount importance to me. Another thing that Naiji do to teach others natural law is making predictions. So Naiji naturally do that in their own mind's eye, and they're given speculations by their simulator, by their spirits. But then with Ji, there is a desire to help people see a better way to do things. And a very effective way to do that is to predict what's going to happen in certain circumstances where other people don't have the ability to offer advice, but you can, because you can see things. So you say this or that, and it turns out to be true. And Nige do this all the time, and it's a way of, again, sort of like breaking records. Making predictions is a way to show something to other people that's valuable, and then they ask, why do you say that? How did you know that was going to happen? Things like that. And then the Nige can bring in their way. And again, this way of operating can be very, very smooth, very, very sensitive, to where the Nige is being very reluctant to come forward with information. And because of that, the Nige may feel like I'm not directive, or I'm not trying to teach, or so forth. But you are, and you should be, because the reason you speak in a broken rhythm, the reason you move differently from other people, the reason you go wom wom, all those kinds of things are because you see things others don't, and that actually has special insights which you should be imparting to others. So you do need to share that. But when you share something that you can see and others can't, that does put you in the position of being the teacher. You can be a very friendly teacher, you can be a very understanding teacher, you can be a very patient teacher, and those are all good things. But you do need to take ownership of the fact that you are teaching natural law that others can't see. You saw it because you walked the one way and you found truth that was greater than the truth you had currently known. And if you keep getting truth that's greater than you currently known, because you have a kind of direct tap into it, you'll definitely be meeting others that don't have it. So the natural law teacher, for example, is one thing that brings the Nige out, that they need to engage the world. You're walking by and you see people who are actually having questions, or they're having trouble, or whatever, and it's because of some natural law that they can't see, some insight into the situation they can't see. Nige are very good at actually, again, skinwalking, going into someone and sort of looking at the situation from where their head is and going, that's why you can literally go in and kind of feel their blinders. Okay, so that's why they can't see shit. And you come back out and now you explain to them with what will get through. And it makes for a very, very effective way of getting through that is very deft, very light of touch, but it is devastating in its impact because it gets in and affects people to their core when other things cannot, because you slip the truth in. So you can be as smooth as you want. You can even have truth go in there very delicately and you walk away and kind of like dim mock, you know what I mean? The truth is like delayed activation effect. When it hits them, it's going to hit them with all the power of truth, and there's nothing stronger in this universe or anywhere else. This goes along with broken rhythm, but I'll be more specific, which is spells. Nige tend to like to cast spells. It's why, for example, they're very good at doing movies and art and all kinds of things like that, singing, comedy. These are ways of teaching people by casting a spell, by using your emotions in a certain way, by moving your face in a certain way, by moving your body in a certain way, by saying certain things in a certain way, connecting things you didn't think it could be connected. All of that, it is captivating for people, and you can take them on a journey inside. And when they arrive at a different place, they are truly there in themselves, and then that's forever. Because you showed them the road and enticed them to walk, but they walked the road themselves, and thus they are there themselves. And that's an incredible gift that Nige have to give. And that's done by teaching natural law. But there is an infinite situations of when you need to teach natural law and how you should go about doing that, and then an infinite amount of tools that a Nige could use to do it properly. So it's always a question of what ways are there available to teach what I need to teach in the situation, and which one should I use. For example, this may sound odd, but going ninja. Nige go ninja all the time. I'll probably do a whole filming on that. And basically, it's where Nige just disappear. You know, you're talking to them, you look over here, and you come back and they're gone. You know, I think you see in movies all the time. Nige, seriously, we do that in life. If you're not paying attention to us, next thing you know, you'll turn around and take our order and we're not there. We just disappear. And that's funny, like a little short setting, but we tend to do this a lot. We'll do it in relationships, we'll do it with jobs, we'll do it with interactions. We were interacting a lot, and all of a sudden either our spirit said we should stop doing this, or we became uncomfortable, or it is simply the end of the ritual, and then we're gone. It's kind of like a stand-up comedian. Bop, 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 and I'm out of here. Almost like they're laughing at your last joke and then he's gone. Nige tend to do that tactic in general. It helps with the HSP, it helps with doing covert stuff, it helps a lot of things. But it also helps with teaching. Now, Naiji, you have to make sure they don't just completely confuse the fuck out of people, but a lot of times when you need to teach someone, you do need to just give them a full stop pause. And generally, to have a full stop pause as far as interacting with you, there's generally only two ways. One is you go ninja. The other one, which we kind of mentioned a little bit in dueling, but we'll go more, is you have to pin them. You have to pin them, you have to submit them, you have to break them. It's one thing. So you basically, you make them stop doing what they were doing, because they're doing dangerous things, for example. This is where it's noble. You had to make them stop doing that, and they're not willing to. So Ji is comfortable with contestation when required. So you pin them. Sometimes you don't want to. Well, there's a third option. Sometimes you don't want to pin, obviously, because you don't want to actually be aggressive. You don't have to. If it's not necessary to cause harm, you don't want to do that. Even just awkwardness, you don't want to cause awkwardness. You don't have to. So you can shapeshift. You can shapeshift into a form that would make the interaction as it was going before not possible anymore. So you can shut it down, you can shapeshift, or you can disappear. And disappearing is a technique that Naiji use constantly, and it helps too, because having bipolar, you can get drained of energy a lot. So having the ability to basically just disappear out of a situation that's not going the way you like is really good to have. It also helps teach people that that's not acceptable. Similar to, hanging up on someone on the phone. Okay, that's not going the way it's supposed to go. Naiji used that tactic a lot. Turn off the phone, slam the door, disappear. These are ways of telling someone that they're not doing what they need to be doing, that's how you do it. It's also saying, perhaps, that they're not doing anything wrong, it's just that I'm not really comfortable with this situation, and they're not hearing that message. Well, you go ninja and they come back around to get your number and you're not there anymore. Well, what? I guess you get the fucking point now. I wasn't cool with where this was going. So I disappeared in order to teach you. Naiji have a lot of things like being revolutionaries, being agitators. An obvious one I won't spend too much time on is storytelling. Obviously, Naiji love to tell stories. They're very, very good at it. And when they tell a story, even though they may just had a story in me I had to say, so really, the telling of a story was teaching you what your spirits wanted to say to you and wanted you to say. But stories teach. Every story, whether you want it or not, has a moral. Even if the moral is, there is no moral. Still, you're teaching. There's no way to actually have a story, because stories actually have a beginning, middle, and end. They just do. Even if you have a story that doesn't seem like it has an end, then the audience will be like, huh, that's open-ended. There will be a conclusion or something derived from anything you put out in a story. So as an IG, you should be aware of that. The way you naturally talk, besides being broken rhythm, you naturally teach in story. And when you teach in story, it gets into people, to their character, their inner character, and whether they know it or not, they start feeling a part of that story. Although they may act like they don't, they will. Naiji have that ability in their natural way of speaking, because that's the natural way their thoughts go. So other people, when they're being interacted that way, they're going to have their Nai and their Ji awoken. What truth do I really know? I haven't really thought about that in a while. And how do I conduct myself as a hero? I haven't thought about that in a while. Well, you need to, because that's the way I think. So that's the way I look at everything, and that's the way I ask questions, and the way I explain things. Even if I'm being very deferential, I'm still being, just as deferential or as smooth or as understanding about another person's position as I can, while still being the one-way walker of truth. So I have to actually keep doing that. So the natural law teacher, it can seem both very non-dominant in that it maybe just wants to go out and collect samples in the wilderness and then bring them back to show people in science shows and so forth. And so they don't necessarily feel like they do a lot of contestation. But that's because that's their way. Their way is to gather those things. They'll feel it when something tries to keep them from gathering the samples they need or from showing them. Then you'll actually see the incredible, baleful side of the natural law teacher. The side that actually acts as a champion, the side that acts as a duelist. Also the side that acts as demon slang, we've mentioned that as well with the Jez hunters. Is Naiji definitely do that. The difference is Naiji tend to be able to spot demons that are less able to be spotted by other people. So just like Naiji are able to read cues that other people miss, they read situations, dynamics that other people miss, they're able to see demons that other people miss. So a part of that is teaching yourself, oh, there's demons. Then you teach other people, hey, there's demons. And then you teach the third one, demons, get the fuck out of here. You know, beat it. So, you know, that teaches everyone. That teaches yourself, that teaches the tribe, that teaches demons. All are getting taught by natural law. Demons don't go here. You come around here being a demon, you're gonna get stomped on and kicked out of town. Genre makers and breakers. Naiji frequently go into a genre and they will break the mold of that genre, or they'll just go out in the middle of nowhere and make a new genre out of nothing. So again, that teaches yourself, that's my way. My way is this kind of art, which didn't exist until I did it. It teaches other people, hey, that's a kind of art we can do. And other people who maybe aren't even artists just know, whoa, art can do that now. So general people, other artists, and the artists themselves all benefit when they learn about what their inner art wants them to express. Traveling. Naiji tend to do a lot of traveling, both physically, but also, most importantly, metaphysically. And whenever you travel from one land to another, again, this is the natural speech. When Naiji are conversating with a coffee shop owner in one country, the fact they have been to coffee shops in 100 other countries, it enters their code of conduct. The way they talk, how they do things, and the information they transmit, it teaches. They're learning themselves because they're updating their code of conduct for this particular coffee shop. So that's a new learning experience for them. How do I conduct myself in this coffee shop? But then the other people who are engaging with you, you're like, that person is acting in a way of a connoisseur, for example, of coffee shops. They've been to a lot. So the individuals who own a given coffee shop can learn from this traveler. So Naiji, actually the Nijai also share this a lot too, is they tend to go around the world a lot. For example, there's a lot of Nijez travel vlogger teams. So both Nijez, they like that. They like to go and find all kinds of goodies from different lands, and they both internalize it in themselves to be a synergistic collage. A synergistic collage of all the best stuff they've gathered, and then they impart that everywhere they go. As they go from each place, they show others how that can be lucky, how that can be epic. Area experts, Naiji like being experts on things because it's comfortable, and it can often be very, very, shy type people who aren't trying to dominate anyone, except that when you ask them questions because they are an expert on that area, on that subject, on that topic, you pretty much just have to let them say their piece and then take it and do whatever you're going to do with it. Naiji are comfortable in giving their answers in monologue form, and when you are an expert on a given thing, when you're a kensei on a given thing, it just, without even trying, without having to ask for it, which is why it may not feel dominant, people naturally ask you for monologues. They're literally asking you to monologue. When you go to an expert and go, could you give me your analysis or your consultation on this? That means like a 2-hour meeting or like a 10-page paper or something. So that's naturally going to be monologuing, but they're requesting it. Naiji are masters of getting people to request the information that they need. A lot of times people don't know what they need, but Naiji can frame things in a certain way, highlight things in a certain way that the other person naturally asks for what they need and what the Naiji wants. Community building. Naiji are very big in community building in general. They like doing that, special campuses, and then particularly if it's unprecedented, if it's never existed before. That's just deeply rewarding. Again, you're going to be a natural law teacher because you are going to have to show, well, first you're going to teach yourself. I know how to do my way for me, but now I'm making a campus, so I'll have to learn how I show that way, I share the way that I have seen with other people. Then you actually need, that's teaching yourself. Then of course you're teaching them as you show how it works for them. And then the outside that's viewing this campus take place, you're like, huh, there's mutants over there at Xavier's Academy. I guess that happened now. And apparently they're doing heroic stuff. It educates the world that mutants exist, that mutants are heroes, for example, or can be heroes, should be heroes. And when that happens, you've elevated the dialogue. Naiji, the natural law teacher, naturally wants to elevate the dialogue. And this can be done by slaying a demon. This can be done by shepherding people who have a hard time taking care of themselves, encouraging people who maybe wouldn't be realizing they had the power within them to go to a better place, and you tell them, yes, you do. You do have the power to go to a better place. So these kinds of things actually help other people get to higher places. And Naiji first have to climb themselves. They have to figure out, how do I climb up over this humanistic hurdle? And once you've done that, you can keep going, of course, but you also need to go back and help others get over hurdles as well, because you are part of the humans, and what you do is intrinsically connected to the rest of them. Some Naiji have a hard time with that, particularly if their Nai is not connected well with their Ji, and or they've really overdone the Zai. That can make Naiji be alienated from the natural law teacher. But they need to not have that happen, because that's integral to their momentum, but also their sense of being a hero. Your ability to actually teach truth to others and then see that light go on their eyes and then watch them go on their story as an elevated character. You have leveled them up. You have leveled yourself up by leveling them up. That's just the bee's knees for a Naiji. As mentioned, Naiji can teach people in a very smooth, deft way. They can teach with a person not even realize that they're doing it to them. They can actually duel them, break them. They can shapeshift. They can do all kinds of things like that. Some of these are confusing by byproduct, but Naiji can also confuse people on purpose. As I mentioned, there's a byproduct of those powers, and the way Naiji talk, the broken rhythm, the way we jump from topic to topic, the way we connect things, the abductive reasoning questions that we ask, all that causes other people to be similarly affected by the kinds of thoughts and the kinds of actions that we're taking. There is such a thing as called being a rascal guru, which is basically, kind of like the Coyote Man. You're going to teach other people how to be a hero by fucking their shit up. Now, normally this is not something you should be doing all the time, because it can really be problematic for people. However, for certain kinds of students who think they know what they're doing when they don't, something that Naiji can do is they can use their broken rhythm, just confuse the shit out of them, trip them up, dunk them underwater, and then when the person realizes they didn't know as much about life as they thought they did, then you reveal yourself as the true proper guru, Fumasta, and teach them what they need to know. Some Naiji can just get addicted to the process of being a rascal guru. They enjoy confusing people. They enjoy tripping them. They enjoy dunking them. Well, that's not the point. The point is to actually get them to a better place. However, in order to be a master of that, sometimes very difficult cases, you have to put yourself into the mode of, I'm going to do whatever I have to get this person to the next place. And that can be sometimes taking a kind of cackling pleasure in them not doing what they need to do just long enough for them to be stung by it. You don't want to actually feed on that overly yourself, but it can be a very effective way to sting the intellectual, the humanistic, the spiritual pride of a person and make them realize excuse me, that they've been improperly proud. That's very, very important. It's important to be properly proud when natural law is approving of your code of conduct, and then you shouldn't be proud when you're not. And Naiji are very good at taking people down a peg if they're not where they should be, and very good at lifting up people who didn't think they could make it. Naiji have both powers. It's a huge responsibility to be able to do that. The ability to build up people into legend and to dismantle people into oblivion. Incredible powers, and you have to be able to know which one to use and which format to use. And this is something that is always on for you, and like the Vaiji, it's something you'll just have to accept and make sure that you are always doing your best. That's all you can do, is just do your best, learn more. Do your best, learn more, constantly. Comedy, real quick, that's just sort of like a variation on the broken rhythm. Comedy by its very nature, when you're funny, it tends to make people's head go and tilt for a second and makes them do a little mini reboot. So sense of humor is something that most Naiji have rather naturally, even if they have rather dry academic humor. Just the fact that Nai is very good at connecting dots that other people didn't see, it makes them go, aha, or or I didn't think of that. And when those things occur, you have basically given them a little bubble of Naiji-ness, just for a second there, for them to see the world in that there are no paradoxes kind of way. That when you see the world from Nai vision, humans are a bit ridiculous. And humor is very, very good at helping the Naiji themselves not take themselves too seriously, but other people as well. That sounds funny. You need to not take yourself too seriously sometimes in order to be deadly serious about the serious business of being an epic hero. Conspiracies. Naiji have a fondness for conspiracy theories, and although a lot of conspiracy theories are bullshit, some of them are actually true, and if you don't actually put it out into the public dialogue, this is something people should look into, people won't. And you do need to investigate things that people think there's nothing there, because sometimes there are things there. So Naiji provide that in the tribe, which is, I think maybe there's some sort of unseen hand that's moving things. And there are unseen hands that are moving things, and if you don't guess at what they are, you'll never find them. It doesn't mean you should actually think they're everywhere and live your life based on that without any proof, but you do need to actually speculate about what unseen things aren't you seeing. Running out of time here, real quick, being a survivor or survivalist, and also being a pioneer, things like that, being an explorer. Naiji tend to do very well in all those kinds of things if they plan on doing it or just happen to them. And then other humans are like, wow, you can go out there that far? Wow, humans can survive that? It teaches humans what humans can do. Part of being a natural law teacher is teaching humans what they previously thought was superhuman is just human. Human heroes can do that, but then you teach them the next superhuman heroic thing they can do. And then, well, sky's the limit. Or is it? Know yourself, grow yourself, save the world. And for Naiji, that means learning natural law through your one-way walker and then teaching other humans through the way you conduct yourself and every fiber of your being.